Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, or should I say my fellow time travelers. My name is Planetary, your fellow time traveling gamer, here for another episode for Planetary's Throwback, where I travel back through time from the awesome modern day games to the good old classic retro games to look at some of the awesome games and some of the most dreadful games and give them a score, but also yet my personal experience with the game. On today's episode, we're going to be looking at one of our favorite on-rail light gun shooters, and also yet one of my personal favorite series of them all, Time Crisis 2 for the arcades and the PS2. So sit down, relax, grab yourself some popcorn and enjoy the show. With this game being published and developed by Namco, with the producer of, sorry if I get this wrong, Takashi Sano, comes a well-known light gun arcade, Time Crisis. More importantly, Time Crisis 2, being the second installment of the series for arcades and console, with the arcade version being released in 1997 as dual cabinets to bring gamers in for the new gaming feature they implemented in the game, the co-op feature, where you and your mates can play the same game at the exact same time to set a high score and to take out the bosses with ease. And like Time Crisis 1, it still have the solo feature if you want to play the game by yourself and set the high score and beat the boss by yourself. After about 4 years when the PS2 came along, Namco has decided to make a console port version of Time Crisis 2 for only the PS2, with it being released in October 2001, with the Gun Kong 2 as the bundle when Time Crisis 2 is bought. Sadly, I don't have the Gun Kong 2, so I'll be using my controller to aim and shoot. Oh. Now, before I get myself into the story of the game, if there's any gamers out there that haven't played this game and wants to experience the story while playing it, I recommend skipping through this time here. I'll give you 5 seconds. Right, can't say I've warned ya. So, there is an industry that goes by the name of Neodyne Industries, has launched 64 satellites around the Earth's orbit and will unify communications around the world. At that time, a VSSE agent, Christy Ryan, managed to steal Neodyne's briefcase that contains all information of what Ernesto Diaz is up to. After a short call with the VSSE HQ at the hotel, the VSSE have sent out 2 of their best agents, Keith Martin and Robert Baxter, to recover the briefcase, but also to escort Christie to safety. But Ernesto have sent out one of his henchmen, Jakov, and an army to recover the briefcase and take Christie to Neodyne Industries. By the time they thought they got everything in order, Keith and Robert were knocking on their front door. After a massive shootout from the streets, alley, and taking out the henchman's boat. God damn. Keith and Robert has recovered the briefcase and made their way to the train depot that was hidden inside the forest, where they sighted the nuclear satellite being planted on the train, and making their way to Neodyne Industries. When they are about to reach the satellite at the end of the train, it managed to be picked up by a helicopter and making its way to the Industries. Now we got another henchman named Bryant. God damn, you must be on steroids to live a missile like that! After his helicopter is blown up and taken out half of the bridge, Keith and Robert has hijacked one of the helicopters to make their way to Neodyne Industries, where Christie is being held hostage for Ernesto's plan. While making halfway through the Industries, taking out half the armies, Keith and Robert meet an old enemy of the VSSE. Wild Dog, a merc that works for money and destructions. After a little shootout with Wild Dog and Ernesto, Wild Dog blows up while Ernesto gets away, with Chrissy being hostage and a human shield. God damn it, Ernesto, can't you actually fight your own battles by yourself without using someone as a human shield? Dick move. After a couple shoots from Ernesto decided to throw Christy off the ledge, while Chrissy is being saved by Robert after, well, you get the idea. Now it's only Inasto and the nuclear satellite. After a couple shots towards the satellite and Inasto, the preparation of releasing the nuclear satellite has been terminated in a more chaotic way. Oh dear. Keith, Robert and Chrissy heads back to the VSSE as heroes. So the aim of the game is to take out a swarm of army forces while racing against the clock, going through 3 sets of area per stage, with 2 areas being normal shootout sections dealing with foot soldiers, and every third area and all 3 sets of stage 3 are boss section. As you can see on your HUD, you got your bullet count, your life count, and your timer, which your timer is the main focus. Unlike Time Crisis 1, where the timer goes down after you clear out every section of the area, Time Crisis 2 has switched it up and returned the timer back to its max amount of time, or max amount of seconds, after clearing out a part of the area. But the difference of the timer between Time Crisis 1 and Time Crisis 2, when Time Crisis 1 runs out of time, it's game over. But when Time Crisis 2 timers runs out, you lose a life. Pretty much a good way to say, hey, I know you're taking your time, but you need to hurry up because you're running out of time, so shoot them. Speaking of shooting, let's get into the controls of how this game works. For the controls, we got 3 variations of controls to look at. We got the arcades and 2 for the consoles. So without further ado, let's actually look at the old-fashioned arcade controls. For the arcade, the controls are the light gun. Wherever you point the gun and pull the trigger, a brief second of light will indicate where you are shooting. The pedals are there to exit out of cover when pressed, and to go back into cover and reload when the pedal is released. For consoles, we got the gun con. Like the arcade light gun, you point and shoot. As for getting back into cover or exiting out of cover, you hold the A button or B button on the gun to exit out of cover or to go back when released. For the controls, which I'm currently using it for my gameplay, the D-pad or analog stick is to move the crosshair to point your gun. The face buttons are used for exiting out of cover when held down or going back out of cover when released, while the shoulder buttons are used to shoot. Out of those methods, I recommend using the gun con when playing on the console, or go to your average old arcade place to play the old-fashioned way with the Time Crisis 2 arcade cabinets. I pretty much recommend out of those 2, not the third one, not the controls. Oh boy. So when it comes to my personal experience, my personal opinion of what I think about Time Crisis 2, both the arcade version and the PS2 version are actually quite fun and actually are very challenging. With the major improvements that they have done after Time Crisis 1, with the timer resetting back to its maximum amount of seconds after when you finish a section of the area, other than losing all the seconds after clearing one section out and going to the next one while the timer keeps running down, it takes the ease off your back and thinking, yeah, I don't need to be a quick shot about this, I can take some time and make sure that I can get myself set and ready to go for the next area, other than thinking, okay, time's still going down, I need to aim left, right and center. But also when the timer goes down, the timer doesn't take you to game over. It takes out a life. It's pretty much a nifty way to make it a little bit easier for people who are getting into Time Crisis 2. Either by playing by yourself or playing with your mate to go through and race against the clock throughout all 3 stages of the game to set out a combined high score or a high score by yourself and become the best VSSE agent underneath the sun. But I actually also like the graphics and soundtrack, and let's actually talk about both of them, both version of them. the arcade version, with it being polygenic and also yet, well, early days in the arcade series, it actually is pretty good. And even with the HUD, it looks so real. It looks pretty awesome. With all the white textile stuff and also yet the HUD being so good, and with the hazardous sign saying you need to reload, it actually looks pretty awesome. But when it comes to the PS2 version, the graphics of it, they managed to soothe the style and the texture for each character that you play as or go up against. It actually looks pretty good, and they managed to add a little bit of shadowing either on the character or in some environments that's around throughout the whole entire stages. It looks pretty awesome. It looks pretty awesome, and you feel like you actually are walking your way throughout the alleys, streets, throughout the forest, and also throughout the neodyne industries. It looks perfect. Now when it comes to the soundtrack, well, for both versions, well, they're just one version, and I can say this, they are top notch, and they are seriously so soothing and so energetic when it comes to this point of traveling your way throughout every 3 areas of the stages, while taking out some of the bosses in such rock out way in such great time as well. So, if I would actually recommend playing Time Crisis 2, yes, I would recommend playing Time Crisis 2 first, other than Time Crisis 1. Time Crisis 1 is meant for the hardcore on-rail shooters, when Time Crisis 2 is pretty much the simple version, easy but challenging at some point. Now I know there's some other versions in the PS2 version games. You got your Link, and you got the co-op screen. I would recommend doing links when it comes to playing 2-player, because when it comes to co-op 2 players on one console, it looks very crunched, and the soundtrack duplicates, and I don't like it. It duplicates it, and it drives me insane. If I want to play it properly with my mates, I'd rather play it via link cable, which sadly I don't think I have a link cable to actually do that, let alone I don't have another PS2 to actually use it, and another TV to go by. Oh boy. So, within conclusion, I recommend that Time Crisis 2 get a 5 out of 5 hourglass. So thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for sticking around for another episode of Planetary's Throwback. If you actually are new to the series and you want to see more of it, make sure you hit that like button, and also put a comment down below of what particular games you want to see next, or to keep your eye out for the next episode that might be coming up. But if you're also new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, but also that notification bell so you can get a good idea when this episode will be coming out, but also to keep an eye out for every Let's Play that's happening every Tuesday, which Tuesday is the retro spectrum, and every Friday, where Friday is the modern day spectrum of gameplays. But until then, thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. This is Planetary, signing out, and I'll see you guys in the next episode for Planetary's Throwback. Ta-ta!